welcome to yet another compelling episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. So, hi Sushant, good morning.
Very good morning.
So, how's your day today?
Great, yeah, it's going on well.
And and let me ask you, how are your vitamin D levels look like?
Mine, I don't measure, blood tests. These all bullshit, waste of time. I know my vitamin D levels very well you know, through my own, molecular testing which we do, right? So it's going on
Mhm.
pretty fine, and my insulin is because vitamin D plays a very important role in insulin signaling. So you know man you can see by my body weight is my body weight is optimal. My body fat is less in single digits, so I'm doing well, yeah.
That's great. So, folks, today we will be discussing about vitamin D since this has been a very pressing question from a lot of our customers and of course many people who actually are looking out for vitamin D supplements. It's been a very pressing question for them as well, right? So Sushant, my first question to you in terms of vitamin D is that why should an average person care about vitamin D in 2026, and what does it actually do in the body beyond your bone health or immune system or mood or hormones? So what does it actually look like in the body?
So we all know that vitamin D is we have heard this thing that vitamin D is anti-inflammatory, it helps bone health, it helps immune system health. It helps you prevent diabetes, help cardiovascular health, number of these things, right? But no one talks about very important benefits, right? And how vitamin D works, right? So first thing is, it could impact the mitochondrial function, it can improve the ATP production, it can reduce the production of reactive oxygen species by upregulating specific antioxidants such as glutathione and superoxide dismutase. It could also, influence the epigenetic modifications that drives, gated calcium channel regulation, and that drives the insulin signaling. So therefore it plays a very important role in prevention of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, right? And this is something which no one talks about, and essentially, very important to understand that the complete blood test to measure your vitamin D levels, and based on that subscribing vitamin D supplements is just a flawed approach. It's just, I'll not say scam, but it's a flawed approach, because you have to understand how vitamin D works. Vitamin D does not work in your bloodstream. It works when it binds to receptor on various cells such as pancreatic cells and muscle cells, right? And even mitochondria, right? So without that activity, your vitamin D cannot deliver benefits what it is supposed to do, right? And a lot of people, even including doctors, assume that if it's in the blood, it will bind to the cells, it will bind to the receptors, and it will perform its job. That's not right. So today we are going to demystify that whole thing, open up that, the basic scientific, you know uh, you know insights about how vitamin D works, right?
That's great actually, because till now everyone used to think that it's all about your mood, your hormones, and your bone health and your calcium
Everything, see, everything,
production and
Sakshi, everything is linked to your mitochondria. So if you want to
Mhm.
say your sex hormones like testosterone or estrogen, it gets synthesized by your mitochondria. Your cortisol is synthesized by your mitochondria, right? Even vitamin D, conversion of vitamin D into active form of vitamin D needs support of mitochondria, because mitochondria's energy, and energy is required for various biochemical reactions, right? So
That's
mitochondria
right.
transforms energy, right? And without energy being transformed, your body cannot perform a task, cannot perform biochemical function.
Mhm.
So mitochondria is in center stage of your health and disease, and unfortunately, no one focus on understanding the mitochondria. Yeah.
I get that, and I can really relate to that. So the last time I got a blood work done, it showed comparatively low levels of vitamin D. So my next question to you is that how do you determine what is the appropriate amount of vitamin D in the body, and how common is the deficiency in actual? Because apart from whatever it is showing in the blood work,
Hmm.
what kind of people are mostly at risk? Is it the people who are indoor workers, or do they have a darker skin tone, or let's say obese or elderly people? So what does the actual deficiency looks like?
So, let us understand the basic synthesis of vitamin D first, right? So that is very clear
Hmm.
that we should focus on. So,
Hmm.
there are two ways our body gets vitamin D. One is obviously it's synthesized in the skin when your precursor of the cholesterol is exposed to UVB radiation from the sunlight, right? And otherwise, obviously, we can get from certain foods such as egg yolks, fatty fish, dairy, mushroom. All these have vitamin D3, D2, D3, right? And these are metabolized in your small intestine, and it also reaches your large intestine, where your gut microbes could produce something called butyrate that upregulates the vitamin D receptors on various cells, right? So it activates various receptors where this vitamin D has to bind to communicate with the cells and mitochondria. And then they also influence the metabolism of vitamin D3, as well as convert biotransform vitamin D3 into specific metabolites. Now, these metabolites enter the bloodstream and travel to your liver, right? Now, your liver, basically needs support of its mitochondria to convert this vitamin D2 or D3 into a circulatory form of 25 hydroxy vitamin D3, right? Which is again an intermediate form of vitamin D3. When liver does this, this particular circulatory form of vitamin D3 travels to your kidney, where again kidney needs the help of mitochondria to convert that into the active form of vitamin D3, what we call is 1,25, dihydroxy vitamin D3, right? And this vitamin D3 bind to the receptors on muscle cells, on pancreatic beta cells, on even mitochondria itself. And then that's I might really mention that it directly influences the cellular respiration capacity. It drives ATP production because it directly communicates with the mitochondria to increase the ATP production. It reduces the production of reactive oxygen species by upregulating the certain antioxidants such as superoxide dismutase, right, and glutathione, right? And then it can also bind to the receptor on the pancreatic cells, where it regulates the voltage gated calcium channel, and it actually stimulates insulin signaling so that glucose can be transported inside the cell, right? These all vitamin D, if you see, is acting when they are binding to the receptors expressed on the cell membrane on the cells, right? Now, uh, most of the blood tests measure this vitamin 3 in the D3 in the blood, right? But it is a very, a half-baked approach, because you need to also know whether vitamin D is actually attaching to the receptor on the cells. And now there are multiple ways how certain abnormalities could prevent this particular biochemical reaction of vitamin D binding to receptors and communicating with the cells and mitochondria, right? And again, this is where your answer to your question comes, that it is actually uh, triggered by one of the most important reason, and not focused, not addressed by healthcare practitioners, is compromised oral health, right? So it will sound strange that how oral health is connected with vitamin D3 deficiency. And that
Hmm.
is the reason, in spite of taking vitamin D3 supplements, whether it is IV form or capsule form, consuming food, fixing your even gut microbiome, right, having enough
Hmm.
butyrate, still you have deficiency of vitamin D3. So as far as I remember, 97% of Indians are vitamin D deficiency,
Hmm.
right? Are vitamin D
Hmm.
deficient. So what happens in case of oral health is your oral microbiome, when they are dysbiosis, it could be because of the toothpaste you are using, which are high in fluoride. It could be because of a lot of sugar you're consuming, or a lot of foods which are not compatible with the oral biology, right? So it could lead to oral microbial dysbiosis, and one way is obviously this over time triggers inflammation in the mouth, which causes leaky gums. And when there's leaky gums, the bacteria from or their byproduct can enter the bloodstream and travel to your liver, right? And then when it travels to your liver, it could, uh, metabolites such as lipopolysaccharides or gingipain could actually disrupt the energetic process of the mitochondria. So it could cause oxidative stress. It could lead to flow back of electrons, which causes production of reactive oxygen species that reduces the ATP production. And without ATP, your liver cannot actually, transform the vitamin D3 into the circulatory form of vitamin D3, right? So your oral health may be impacting your liver function. Besides, if you're
Hmm.
consuming protein powders such as, which have high in sucralose, non-native sweeteners. Probably I've done a video on this, so you can connect it. But sucralose directly damage the mitochondria of the liver cells, and that is something. It's again another reason why we are having vitamin D deficiency. That is one angle. Second angle is the bacteria from your mouth can also travel to your gut via saliva, because every day we swallow 1 liter of saliva, right? And these
Hmm.
bacteria could
Hmm.
trigger inflammation in the gut, which could further make your gut microbiome produce similar lipopolysaccharides that can travel to your liver and cause a similar dysfunction in the mitochondria. Or it could inhibit the butyrate production, which could down-regulate, VDR, vitamin D receptors, right? So,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
again, and as per Indian Dental Association, 90% of the Indians have a major oral disease and they're not aware of it, right? So this really corroborates with the kind of data we have in terms of vitamin D deficiency and the people who have oral health, and no one focuses on the oral health issues, right? That is the biggest chunk of the gap in the healthcare. Your supplements are not going to work until unless it can communicate with your cells and mitochondria, right? That's a basic common sense rule. So it's understand, these receptors are like antenna, right? So if you catch a channel, you have to see that antenna is in the same wavelength and same electric current, right?
That's right. That's right. So, Sushant, this really intrigues me sometimes because we have seen people taking a lot of supplements of D2 or D3, right? And time again, you have been sensitizing people about the importance of the right supplement dosage, and you should not be overdoing it. So, can you just shed some light on what exactly are the risks of over supplementing vitamin D?
It is well known, vitamin D over supplementation. First thing is, I can't comment too much on the harmful effects, because that's again very very sort of controversial point, because there are researchers which say that excess vitamin D can cause inflammation. Excess
Hmm.
means more than what you require may cause inflammation. But what I know that for sure, that if you have vitamin D deficiency, right, even if you're taking supplements, it is not going to overcome
Hmm.
your deficiency. Just go and check your blood works pre your supplementation, post supplementation, you'll find, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
even if it shows, so the thing is that your blood work may show that after taking supplementation you have no vitamin D deficiency, but again, but your symptoms still loom around. You have hyperglycemia, you have bone health issue, you have mitochondria, you
Fatigue,
have low energy level, fatigue, right? You
fatigue,
have
and all those
heart
things.
issues, right? You have inflammation in your arterial walls, a lot of these things. So essentially, vitamin D3, just taking a supplement which will just going to show a better blood work does not translate
Hmm.
into a better health,
Hmm.
right?
That's true. That's true. And even I have seen that, during the times of COVID, that people were prescribed a lot of vitamin D supplements, right? And that was something actually, right? Now let's understand that, what exactly should be the kind of protocol around vitamin D? How can we improve the absorption? Now, since we know that it is not about how much you are consuming, it's about whether it is getting absorbed or not. So, how do we improve that absorption levels?
So the three things you should focus on: first and foremost, your oral health, right?
Right.
Please throw off all the toothpaste which have fluoride, SLS, saccharins, aspartame, right? All non-nutritive sweeteners, artificial sweeteners. SLS is like a detergent, right? You don't need detergent in your mouth, right? So all the over-the-counter, most 99% of the over-the-counter toothpaste are high in fluoride, right? And you don't need fluoride. Another side effect of fluoride is it can alter your oral pH. It is a neurotoxin. It can enter your pineal gland and disrupt your melatonin production. So it would even lead to hypothyroidism. It would lead to sleep apnea issues, right? So I'm just giving you a few aspects of how fluoride is harmful, right? And then, oral health, and again, look at your oral microbiome. Unfortunately, except as nobody focuses on the oral microbiome in India, right? Then also fix your gut microbiome, right? Again, to some extent, your oral microbiome directly impacts your gut microbiome, right? In fact, to a large extent, because both share around 80 to 90% of the bacteria, right? So again, fix your oral microbiome, fix your gut microbiome, understand what is causing your mitochondrial dysfunction, the dysfunction, the energetic process of the mitochondria, right? And even the liver issues. So it's your gut, your liver, your kidneys, your mouth, all these organs are involved in your vitamin D metabolism, right? And again, also the inflammatory cascades. We have to look at the production of antioxidants such as glutathione and superoxide dismutase, which are essential, which our body makes. And as we age, our body stops making superoxide dismutase, so we have to you know other there are very few supplements which do offer superoxide dismutase. But again, you can upregulate by fixing your gut microbiome, right? That is one way, because it indirectly helps you upregulate the superoxide dismutase activity, right? Or there are certain supplements like there are specific algae like spirulina can actually have superoxide dismutase that can help you get the right amount of superoxide dismutase. So, and glutathione, again, we know it's coming from certain specific amino acids, right? And again, you know, uh, cysteine and other amino acids, right, which really help in synthesizing glutathione, right? And again, it
That's
glutathione
correct.
also works inside the cell. So again, all these factors, you have to look at system biology approach. You just can't take a vitamin D supplement and say you're going to it may improve your blood work, but it is not going to improve your health, right?
That's right. That's right. Now, what would be your advice for people who are, I mean, let's say they are not taking lactose, they are intolerant, and they're vegans, they're not even eating non-vegetarian. So, what would be your advice to those people? Because then they end up having very limited sources for vitamin D in that case.
Yeah, this is a scam, vegan thing. If you recall, one of our customer and his wife were taking vegan and they were consuming this almond milk, and all this almond
Hmm.
milk is high in
Hmm.
lectin. It sucks for all your minerals. So vegan is
Hmm.
bullshit. It's just a marketing gimmick, right? You should not be vegan. First thing, yeah, if you don't want to consume non-veg, there are certain sources like mushroom can give you vitamin D. That should not be a problem, right? Fortified
Well,
milk.
apparently in our country, my friend, there are people who don't even want to consume mushroom because of their religious practices and all those things. So, what about that?
um, Suffer. You have to suffer. You see, so obviously you will take supplement, but you have to make sure that even just taking supplement will not going to improve your vitamin D levels. You have to fix your gut microbiome, you have to fix your oral microbiome, you have to fix your mitochondria, right? All these things.
Hmm.
So whether you're taking through food or you're taking through supplement, you can't assume that but just by taking supplement it is going to improve your vitamin D absorption level, right? You have to fix your pathophysiology, your biochemical functions, your energetic process, your bioenergetics inside the body, right? So whether it is mitochondria, whether it is gut-based biosis, or whether it is oral microbial dysbiosis, right?
Also, I remember this thing when we were creating a nutrition ontology. Many of the seeds are also very prominent. See, nuts and seeds, they are also
Yeah,
rich
but
with
again,
vitamin
again,
C,
the
right?
problem is in a lot of these seeds also have oxalic acid, right? So that is,
Pumpkin seeds, for example, right?
yeah,
Pumpkin
yeah.
seeds
Yeah,
have a bit
pumpkin
of
seeds can be,
oxalate.
pumpkin seeds is still better because it also have magnesium, right?
Hmm, hmm,
But
hmm.
sunflower seeds, on one hand, they have oxalates. Nuts and seeds
Yes,
have a lot of
yes.
oxalate, right? So essentially,
Hmm.
if you do that, that directly, because what we have found in our data is around 90% of the Indians does not have the right bacteria to neutralize oxalic acid, right? So
I would
essentially,
say 99% because I haven't seen a single profile. Only one profile we came across which had an oxalate
no,
forming
I
bacteria.
I don't have an
Yes,
oxalate issue. I can consume
right.
foods. I don't have an oxalate
Yeah,
issue, right? And
perhaps that is
again,
your data only. If
yeah.
I'm Yeah, so
So
that is true. That is true.
yeah,
So
so the
Sushant,
issue
any
is,
any
yeah.
yeah, please continue.
So
Please
issue is
continue.
that these you have to look at food ontology in a different molecular container for different molecule. You can't just assume that a particular food has an isolated molecule and we'll consume that because it has this particular stuff, right? So ideally, you have to look at how each of the molecule interact with your cells, with your microbiome, with your mitochondria. That matters. Right?
That's true. That's true. So Sushant, now since we've come to the end of this discussion, any special message you would like to convey, any piece of actionable advice on vitamin D to our listeners today? What would it be? So that people can actually start getting benefit from the kind of protocols that
So, so
they
please,
follow. Yeah,
my first thing is obviously your health starts from your mouth. That is the first exposure to, that is our first exposure to external environment. So please change your toothpaste. Do not consume toothpaste high in fluoride, right? Uh, Brush teeth twice a day. Change your brush every month. Your brush should not have hard bristles, right? You should floss every day, right? Do not consume too much of acidic thing. Even if you're consuming coffee or tea, please do not have a larger time of consumption. So I've seen people in office space, they will take a coffee and they will keep it sipping for 3 to 4 hours, right? Especially
oh,
in
okay.
winters, the cold coffee and all those things, right? So again, this is a bad thing. You are making your teeth overwork, you are demineralizing your teeth, and then when you're consuming too much of acidic thing, it makes your mouth, or if there's oral dysbiosis, it makes your mouth dry. And when there's a dry, there's less saliva is needed to deliver nutrients to the demineralized teeth so that they can be demineralized. So essentially all
Saliva
these things.
also carries the nitric oxide, right? The
No, saliva
salivary
does not
production.
carry, yeah, but obviously you have bacteria in your mouth could produce nitric oxide via nitrite
Yes,
stomach acid pathway,
yes.
right? But again, when you have acidic pH because of wrong food, you can't say that every, obviously there are certain, you should consume less sugar, you should not consume ultra processed foods, right? And even certain other foods could cause dry mouth, right? And again, that
Mm.
directly also impacts the remineralization of teeth. It impacts the estrogen metabolism, right? Number of these things. So let us not get into the oral health. That is a different discussion we can do some other day, right? Because it will continue. So the focus is obviously on vitamin D. Is fix your oral health. Change your toothpaste, change your toothbrush every month. Have soft bristle toothbrush, right? Floss your teeth. Do not have a larger period of sipping coffee, right? uh, and please do not have too many meals. We are making our teeth work more than 200 times a day, and that is a bigger problem that is directly impacting our enamel and our oral health, right?
So basically, eating everything every 2 hours is
is
not
is
something which
bad
is recommended.
is bad
Okay,
is really bad,
okay. Hmm.
right?
Right. And obviously, mouthwash is a big fat no. We've
That is
already,
100%. That is, we have
yes,
spoken so many times that mouthwash should be avoided.
right. Right. So thank you, Sushant. That was a pretty intense and interesting discussion. And I hope that our listeners they do benefit from all the tips that you've given, all the kind of information that we've been sharing. And thank you so much for
Thank
this
you.
whole vision of yours that has helped a lot of people to get control of their health, right? So our mission of empowering all the people in terms of their health, it continues. And thank you to all our listeners for continuous support. Thank you.
And just want to add here. So tomorrow I'll be talking about estrogen and the role of
Mm,
mitochondria in estrogen metabolism, because it is a bigger issue for basically female population who are at the stage of perimenopause and menopause, right? And
mm, mm, mm.
even middle-aged female who have an estrogen issue, right? I'm going to
Yes.
talk about the aspect of the mitochondria and microbiome, the role of estrogen homeostasis.
So, folks, do stay tuned. Keep following our channel on YouTube. Our podcast is available on Spotify and even Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. So, thank you, Sushant. Have
Thank
a great
you.
day.
You too. Bye bye.